SocialInvestor.com's Daily Brief. The answer to your question is learn the goddamn process, trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Insanity. This is our daily brief. Still don't really get comfortable with this. I think I need to hear the intro for me to sort of get into the groove. I'm not quite sure how the transition works. Anyway, you heard me barking for a while about wanting to get the intro going and sort of crisp up the presentation a little bit. So hats off to Chris. Everybody should give a big shout out to Chris for taking the initiative on that. And then also to the little Broiler Chickens newsletter, the weekly newsletter. Super excited about that. It's starting to look really, really nice and polished. So very proud of the team. Way to go, team. Anyway, we might find some subtle changes here over the next 6 months or so to try and maybe make the website look a little bit more marketable for the public. Yeah, hopefully TRI is starting to look a little bit more professional. Tools that we've built are doing their job, coming along nicely. It is quite an uphill battle, though, no doubt about that. And unfortunately, 23 is such a weird year. These are we going into recession? Are we not in recession? Is the Fed done raising interest rates? Is inflation out of control? Do the communists take over? Stupid idiot substitute drama teacher in my country. And, it's just fascinating that through this, Klaus-induced Great Reset nonsense garbage going on here, they've got somebody who has absolutely no experience whatsoever. In fact, she was just like a State Department lackey under the Trump administration, and she sort of came to fame because she put up with all of Trump's nonsense, and now all of a sudden she's deputy prime minister, minister of finance of a G8 country. I mean, how the hell does this work? And listening to some of the tweets that were put out yesterday, it's just like, oh my God, now they're actually talking about it. I couldn't believe it. I had to tweet it out. It was just too much. I don't know. Somebody said that maybe this video is a bit old, but I mean, Canada, wake up. Now she's actually saying, Canadians have a lot of money in their bank accounts. And if we need to do a bailout, let's go and steal the Canadians' money. Now, that sounds like a perfectly reasonable idea. It just doesn't end with these people. Ah! Oh, goodness. And of course, Brian just went an octave or two up, down kind of idea. So, he gets a bit excited. I don't know whether YouTube picked that up or not. Thought this was interesting. I was chatting with my celestial buddy, and actually good that we finally got to touch base on the site. He got himself set up on Discord. And anybody who's sort of an old TRIer, unfortunately, that is a hoop that you're going to have to jump through. We are on the Discord platform now, so you got to get all discorded. But anyway, I was chatting with him this morning. What is a world swimming in a bazillion, gazillion dollars of liquidity look like? Well, it looks like hyperinflation. That's what it looks like. Mr. Milton Friedman is probably rolling in his grave going, Jesus, I can't believe these idiots are doing it again. But what's fascinating was, and this is kind of a side, I think I'll probably go into detail on this in the after party. But this is basically the 80-year money cycle. And this is basically Bretton Woods over here, Second World War, coming out of the Great Depression, blah, blah, blah. What really startled me is, of course, if you have these W's come in, then you can start painting chaos theory. And fascinating how out of the Great Depression and then into that Great Reset, of course, they blamed it on the Second World War. But I would argue that actually the Second World War was Sadly, I actually think it was a manufactured event, kind of like what you're seeing in Ukraine. I think Ukraine was pretty much a manufactured event. And it's also interesting too how um, a lot of the sort of military buffs and military nuts in our society, they don't even realize that they're being played by the 1% to justify all this ridiculous spending. They did it in the Second World War. Took debt to GDP to just absolutely insane levels and then had to hyperinflate everything at a zero onto the end of all prices to set the basis for the next money cycle. And then they did it again at the end of the 1970s, early 1980s. And then they did it again here just recently. But it's fascinating when you look at these Foggenbaums. I don't think you can fight Foggenbaum here. And, I've shown you in the past, if we actually look at the 1940s inflation data, in the latter part of the 1940s, things go absolutely insane. So unfortunately, I think that we have to probably go through that same sort of event into the latter part of this decade. And, other celestial gurus on our site, one gentleman in particular I'm thinking about, he's basically said that 2027, 2028, the poop is really going to hit the fan. So there's a nice party image for you. And unfortunately, we've got communists that are basically in charge of our country right now. They have no problem spending money that they don't have, just printing it out of thin air. You saw how that went in Venezuela. You saw how that goes in Zimbabwe. You saw how that goes in Weimar, Germany. Why would we even for a moment think it would go any differently just because we have this egotistical hubris here in the West where for some reason we think that it won't happen? I mean, it's stupidity. Oh boy, it's actually interesting that my horoscope said from I think back in like 2003, it said that I would enjoy 30 years of financial prosperity and then 30 years of crap. So unfortunately, that 30-year window is coming to an end pretty quick. I got to go make my money, buy my island, and get the hell out of here. All right. Just check out of this because unfortunately, like I said, into the latter part of this decade, oh my God, things are just going to go nuts. And God, it must be awful for you, the viewer, to hear me going on about this day after day, week after week, month after month. But that is the landscape du jour. Commies are running these countries. And don't be surprised if little commie dictators come along and can literally justify stealing money from you blindly and all perfectly legally. Ugh, terrible world. All right. Anyway, you got a nice little, 5-minute rant there from Brian, reminding you about how wonderful substitute drama teachers are. All right. Heading on to the market. As we've been sort of talking about of late, I don't know where the best place to start is, just, the basic news. I get the impression from remember we had sort of talked you through this on the weekend, kind of felt like they kicked the can at the end of the week there last week and said that, we'll do debt ceiling debates and meetings and stuff Tuesday, right? That'll be the big day. So Monday was kind of a non-event. Tuesday sort of came and went, and I get the impression, the message out of the politicians now is, oh, we'll figure something out. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is still back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But interesting also too to hear sort of out of the U.S. government, they're coming to the conclusion that they would like to blame the individual bank executives for poor bank asset management, and also to a certain degree, but you probably were not going to hear too much about it. But basically, the Fed dropped the ball in the fact that they are supposed to be regulating these entities and making sure, actually, like doing real stress tests and what happens if the Fed goes and cranks interest rates dramatically higher, where these banks, I don't think really even, and sadly, this exact same thing that happened in 1999, 2000, Jupiter Saturn cross then, where prior to that peak, University of Princeton University economics professors Blinder, basically laughed at John Roth on national television right in his face for selling all his Nortel stock because he said that the bubble was getting a little ridiculous and he wanted to get out. And Mr. Blinder, the economist from Princeton, said, "Oh, you kidding? Growth is endless. It'll never stop." And then look what happened in 2001, 2002, 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, and all that manufactured war on terror and all that craziness. So it just goes to show, man, things can just turn on a dime so quickly through these cycles. And what you think is up is actually down. What you think is left is actually right. And everything is changed. And, I might even argue that Granny and Chappelle, I think they actually fell asleep at the switch. Or, and this is the worst part about it, maybe they knew about this all along. Klaus's Great Reset, World Economic Forum, they knew and planned for all of this. And they just basically lied to us in the public. So I don't know what it is. Take your pick. Which world do you want to live in? So news-wise, man, if anything, one thing that's very encouraging that's coming out of this is the top list dancers in LA now are unionizing. So hell, if you give any of the strippers any shit in LA now, you're going to get a big union thug come and beat you up. I thought that was hilarious to read that this morning. So you can see the major headlines, if there is any, is of course U.S. debt. They're dealing with it. They're dealing with it. Interesting how Harry and his wife Meghan are now having the same problems that his mother had. That's kind of interesting with the paparazzi. Yeah, well, I don't know whether that's really even news worthy, but interesting how you can see that this kind of stuff it appeals to the masses. I don't think it's really news, but anyway, look at that. It's right across all of these things. Anyway. That's a little gross. So senior citizens now are going to be on the cover of things like Sports Illustrated swimsuit magazines. Oh boy. What? You gotta be kidding me. What world are we living in here? Oh well. So let's head on over to Econs. Like I said, I didn't really see anything dramatic news-wise. Econs, I mean, you can see the stock market's relatively happy. It sort of bobbed and weaved through the open there. But I think on balance, like I said, as long as they keep hearing sort of positive talk where the U.S. government is not going to default, blah, 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 I don't think this is done by a long shot. And also, too, remember that we have some big options expiry business coming up on Friday. I think I showed you the open interest numbers. Actually, I wonder if I cut and paste it on here. I might have. Man, I sure love this stock. Holy crap. We had our Stock Pickers Club meeting last night. And I have to say, about 6 months ago, I got absolutely uber bullish about Japan. And it turns out Japan's just going crazy now. But I love this stock. We were looking at this stock last night. I mean, you can make the argument that you can actually come in and buy Toyota Motor Company at basically the pre-COVID levels there. So, like a lot of these US stocks, I mean, they just went absolutely insane and they never came back down to earth. This guy actually looks like he's come back down to earth. And I really like the talk. Sjord, of course, TRI CTO, has been talking lots about, he feels as though that the hydrogen industry is going to get a huge boost. And a lot of these sort of, gas station owners around Europe, they just don't want to abandon all this infrastructure that they've invested in. So he thinks that all of it's going to be converted into hydrogen storage. And Toyota here has been working its butt off to try and develop a hydrogen combustion engine. And the only thing that it produces in exhaust is water, which should make all the environmentalists happy. Also, too, I don't know whether, everybody running around driving electric cars is really all that good for the electrical grid. It's pretty taxed as it is right now. I mean, and 85% of our society is still on energy. So tell you, this is one of the stocks that I reiterated about again last night in our stock pickers club meeting. That's basically sitting right on a weekly W right there. I mean, if I'm worth anything as a investor, stock trader, I should be pulling the trigger on that thing. So don't be surprised if you hear that. I went. Hell, I mean, maybe I'll just go buy 3 shares, right? And that'll be like what, $500, and then look to sell 1 or 2, maybe on a double, on some sort of test of these peaks down the road. You can see there's a big juicy gap up top there, and then just ride the free share as just a good demonstration for everybody. This is I can't stress how much I love the look of that stock. And I suppose, because we did our stock pickers club meeting last night, a couple names that I've been invested in. I bought a little bit of this XLC recently off of that weekly W. So that's kind of the same thing as that Toyota Motor Company, and you can see it working its way back up. Picked up a little of this pharma name. It jumped up quite a bit, but it looks like it's calming down here a little bit. But anyway, I bought that W, so it's just doing its thing. There was one stock, a little lithium stock here that I bought, and I really didn't like what I saw happen yesterday. And so I actually just walked away from the trade. We broke down briefly through these lows, and I was like, you know what, I don't need to be a hero. So I just walked away from that. It was about a $30-40 loss, something like that. And picked up a little bit of this little guy here. He seems to be working away, so I'm perfectly happy just to sit tight in there. But I think what I'm probably going to try and do, I did hear a few people ask about VCIM names, and while we're going through a rising interest rate environment, penny stocks do absolutely nothing. So really, it shouldn't surprise that, like a this penny stock, I mean, it's just basically on its knees here for 2023 so far. So I haven't really seen a lot of VCIM names that have got my attention, but I think over the coming sessions, I'll circle around and do a little bit of sort of review. Like this is one that we played last cycle, and you can see it treated us very, very well. Boom, boom. And thinking about coming in, buying back the positions down in here on these kind of things. I'm getting closer. What I really need to hear, and this is also exactly the same as crypto, is I need to hear that the Fed is done raising interest rates. I mean, you can see the bottoms that are coming in on these things. I don't know whether these would actually qualify as VCIM names anymore. They've diluted the crap out of their stock. But just FYI, anybody who does watch these videos, and I know some people are like, hey, you haven't really mentioned VCIM, because, as long as the Fed's raising interest rates, the junior stock market, and you all know what's going on in crypto right now, and the altcoin, same thing. I mean, you could argue this UBIC is identical, but this is a cryptocurrency. While the Fed's, raging its war against inflation here in the short term, these kind of things will do nothing, right? They're actually entirely beholden. As soon as the Fed takes the cost of money down, in some great panic and slashing interest rates to save the economy and all that, well, then you'll see these little ones start to perform. Okay, so I'm kind of scatterbrained all over the map here today. I think the real reason why I wanted to jump over here was just to see whether we have any tells from the big boys, the SPY. Let's see, didn't I have this on here? I thought I did. Oh yeah, maybe I have it here, but hopefully I copied it. Where is the data? No, doesn't look like I did. Darn. Anyway, the four, well, actually, you can just see the numbers here. 147,000 options. This is like literally $30 million right there in that one option series on Friday. Better make damn sure this thing closes out above that. This one's about 85,000 contracts at an average right price of $1 or $2. This is anywhere between about 10 and $20 million in this one option. So is it in Wall Street's best interest to get this market up and as high as possible into this Friday? Absolutely. And then what's shocking is, just bazillions of options here. You take the market up into this area and you go look at there's a good old fog and bomb. So, we know that chaos people are kind of thinking higher. They take the market up into this area, regardless of whether this is fundamentally justified or not. Wall Street hits an absolute massive home run. I mean, it's actually shocking how brutally corrupt this is. But because the public just doesn't understand options and the derivatives markets is not controlled by the SEC, SEC is all about the Securities and Exchange Commission, and options are derivatives. They are not securities. So ironically enough, it's actually totally outside SEC's ballpark, jurisdiction, all that kind of crap. I mean, you see what Gensler is doing with the crypto market right now. So you can see how much of a dick these people can be if they want to be. But the options is completely outside of their jurisdiction. So these guys, they can go and do all the shenanigans they want. And it's just stunningly corrupt. So, 90 to 95% of all puts are written by institutions. Like I said, some pretty big numbers. The 400s, the number actually went up, 151. And of course, where did we say? There's the 410s, 78. And then look at this. They can get the market up here to like 420, which is not that far away. That's like what? Maybe 2%. It's not that far away. Look at this. It's an absolute home run. All of these options all expire worthless. Wall Street goes cha frickin' ching. So anyway, business as usual. I definitely think that they will prop this market up into Friday. Do they use some sort of, we're making progress on the debt ceiling issue to justify that? Probably. Anyway, so there you go. I have been talking to you a little bit, and actually I even got up fairly early this morning just because, living up near the North Pole here, the sun now comes up literally at like 4:30 in the morning. It's just ridiculous. But I think I've shown you guys, where's the chart? There we go. This setup is just working away here. And I honestly don't know what's going to happen here. The setup is fired, fog and bombs for trade location. We could also argue A, B, C, Ds. Massive bearish divergence in momentum indicators, market structure failures. And I even tweeted out first thing this morning, there's not really anything for me to do here. Just let your setup just do its thing and just live with the results. If we do trade down to this 25 Gs, which would be a 38.2 tag, which would be very normal, then I get to move my stop to scratch. Woohoo! But that could mean, hell, who knows? That might happen through the middle of the summer. I don't know. I've often told you guys, it's probably not in our best interest to get into predicting the future. I could very easily see something like that, and then it starts working its way down. You just don't know in this game. But the setup fired. You can see everything's just working away. Just leave it alone. Let it do its thing. Day trading, actually, I was proud of myself. I think I've shown you this before, and I like this methodology. It works really well for me as an individual. And of course, I've also showed you the spreadsheet. If I was going to do a boot camp, how to set yourself up to come to the market and behave correctly on a daily basis, right? I think it's a good idea to set up one of these sort of basic daily sort of checklists. You should have your demon finders handy. You should have, this happens to be a folder that all these documents are in. Then like overviews, one pagers of this, then this just sort of, if anybody's like, what are you talking about bootcamp? I've got these things handy for them. And you can see along here, I have a whole bunch of different trading plans. Some are crypto, some are stocks, some are options, some are futures, and just sort of just running my small business of trading. I always like to, very first thing in the morning, check in on the computers. How are they doing? And if the computer has a brain fart, which they often do, well, that's, before I got the Daily Brief video going here, Google decided to kick me out of one of the email accounts. And I was like, okay, that's a little bit of a curveball. So I had to figure out how to get logged back in and all that. But anyway, always a good idea to have, check in very first thing in the morning. Are your computers and all your platforms and stuff all ready to go? I always think it's a good idea. Check in on how your diet's going, how exercise is going. And I've told you guys repeatedly, the one thing that's sort of lacking in my life right now is I should put myself on a pretty good exercise routine. I'm not a bit lazy with that, but sure we'll hear lots of comments from you guys on how I can do that. And then I personally think, and a huge determiner of how I trade is, did I get any sleep? Did I get enough sleep? How was the sleep? Sleep last night was a bit tough for me. And actually, it's interesting. I've been talking to a lot of people that actually, going through this whole sickness event, Jupiter Saturn cross, sleep for a lot of people is actually very difficult these days. So anyway, as you can see, still trying to figure out why the hell my sleep schedule is so bad. But anyway, it is what it is. I always like to just check in on sort of what is the conversation du jour, if you will. So little bit of a mixed bag when it came towards the econs, but on balance, didn't really see a lot of econs today that are going to move the market. So there's no big sort of red dashes here. There's that building permits. It did come out as sort of a red dash. You can see, I mean, not huge moves, down just slightly. Housing starts up just slightly. And if anything, this is exactly what you kind of want the housing market to be, is, 2 to 3% annualized growth rate. That is a normal, healthy economy. The issues here, of course, is that we still have a lot of really nasty inflationary pressure in our society. All right, thank you, sir. Chris is doing a fantastic job of late, so everybody give Chris a big shout out. I think he's doing a fantastic job. And then of course, interesting how nobody and their brother wants to buy any Canadian securities right now, which I do find fascinating. Again, I can't figure out how they keep this goddamn Fakezi going. And it's shocking now that they're actually publicly coming out and saying, well, you know what? We're just going to steal the money out of people's bank accounts. Screw them. We're not going to encourage them to invest. We're not going to tax them. We're just going to steal it. And really, if you listen to Mr. Friedman, basically that's what inflation is. If you listen to Mr. Greenspan, you ever heard of a guy named Alan Greenspan? He publicly came out and said, you leave the gold standard. This is in essence a confiscation of the public's wealth. That's exactly what this little piece of work is doing to every Canadian right now. And I don't understand why more Canadians aren't absolutely up in arms over this. It baffles me. And in a weird sort of way, I mean, oh God, here we go. Brian's going to get all ramped up again. All right, let's get back to what we're supposed to be doing. So Econs, nobody wants to buy Canada. I've told you repeatedly, Canada's a short. But what you're probably going to see happen is the Canadian government's actually going to start cannibalizing its own citizens, which is just terrible. Anyway. Okay, so econs, man, not like my little note to myself was little news today. I did what I like to do when I first get up in the morning is, first off, Chris and I like to ponder whether we're going to do an opening range trade setup in crude oil. According to the rules, if we're inside the previous day's range, we don't do it. Ironically enough, it did actually fire, and the trade did actually work, even though we were in opening range. But nonetheless, following the plan, following the rules, there was no opening range trade today. So then my next step is I like to go look at the 4-hour charts, and I like to ask, are we at 4-hour levels? So the crude oil market here. This is interesting because this is a scary message that the market is actually sending to us. So you thought inflation was licked. Uh-oh. This is basically saying that crude oil prices are wanting to head higher here. But having said that, we came into a key horizontal support and resistance level. So I am given permission at that point to drill down to lower time frames and start hunting setups. What was interesting was in the gold market, we also had it on the other side. It come down into some serious horizontal support and resistance levels, which meant that I could hunt on lower time frame charts long setups. Now, probably something for my trading journal. I took a, and TradingView screwed it up. Thanks, TradingView. Jerks. Anyway, I don't know whether I can show you or not. Actually, you know what? We'll do this in the after party. Anyway, I took a lower time frame setup in gold, got stopped out. Like I said, we'll look at it in the after party. But interestingly enough, I took the short setup in crude oil, which set up much, much better. And it actually translated into a nice win. So on balance, a profitable day on the day. So feeling pretty good about day trading. Basically batting 50%, but as long as you make sure your average winner is bigger than your average loser, that's the whole point of this exercise. I can bat 50% and still come out positive on the day. I think this one's dead too. What the hell is TradingView doing here? These bastards? Isn't that bizarre? Huh. Yeah, they're killing my my charts. I can't save them now in my spreadsheet. Anyway, I'll rant about that in the after party, I suppose. So that's sort of my day. Did a couple of day trades, net positive on the day. Felt pretty good about that. No opening range trade. Still working the short, I guess the manual short trade in crypto. And I let one of my little recent RRSP purchases go. The little lithium stock, because it started to M out there. All right. I mean, that's sort of your update for the day. So I don't know whether that was any value. Of course, same old, same old. Brian's just as salty as always. I suppose in the after party, maybe we'll take a good look at what the dashboard is indicating. I did find it interesting that the stock market breadth rolled back over, but crypto breadth actually interesting. You can see they're starting to come together here, but I'm still actually in this long algo crypto trade. So as soon as this actually issues a new signal, I'll act there, but there's nothing really to do there. So. All right, well, there's your summary. PMA for the win. Pop on over to the after party, and we'll dig into a little bit more detail, and maybe I can go find those day trading setups and show you guys in the after party what happened there. Other than that, we have level 4 class, brand new class that we're doing on option spread trading with Zach later on today. So super excited to see that program up and running. And we'll have the Coinigy crypto show tonight. If Joe can get his local internet. If I understand correctly, Joe uses the internet service provider that Chris likes the most in the States, right? Is that right, Chris? I think that's how it goes. Not. Anyway, Chris not overly impressed with Joe's internet service provider, and indeed they're giving Joe a bit of a hard time here. So I don't know whether we'll have the show tonight, but I really would like to see Joe take over the management of the video. So if his computer's on the fritz, internet's on the fritz, then maybe we just won't do a show. But anyway, check in tonight. You might see us on the internet interwebs talking crypto. All right. Have yourselves a great day. PMF for the win. All the best. And bye for now.